W238CA, 95.5 FM, Utica, New York. The Heat.
This is Ron Klopfenstein, and you're on the Hot Seat on a Media Monday. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Hot Seat. This is our Christmas Eve show, and sitting right here next to me is a big Santa Claus balloon that looks just like a Santa Claus holding a radio, listening to 95.5 FM The Heat. I wish you could see it. If you're watching this video, though, you can see it. I'm going to hold it up here. So since I have this amazing artistic balloon, of course, we have the artist himself here, Drew Allen. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me back.
Drew's magic and balloon animals. And so you were on the show a few months ago. And I was so impressed by your story, like how you got involved in this balloon business and magic and out there doing your stuff. So I've told this story so many times to my 8th graders because I think it's so cool that like you got a gift in your Easter basket of balloons and you built it into this whole big thing. So tell us a little bit about your origin story.
So I'm going to combine balloons and magic while I say this. I've always loved both. In kindergarten, I did a magic show and then that kind of fell out. And then in 5th grade, we have another talent show at my school. So I did magic for that again, and I just stopped. And then in like 6th, 7th grade is when I got balloons in my Easter basket as a gift. And I kept going with it, and I never gave up and never looked back. And then I was thinking to myself, how can I combine this with something I already like to form a business and really get people's attention? And it just so happened I found my magic kit again and started that up.
Really?
And it's grown from there.
How did you learn how to do the magic tricks?
So, I know a guy, and like I met him. I always saw him at these libraries, and he always told me if I ever need any help with any magic thing to ask him.
Yeah.
And so over COVID, I just did.
Yeah.
On a whim. And it's grown from there. I know him very well. We're
Wow.
great friends. He's basically like my magic mentor.
Oh, cool. So you learned how to do the tricks from him, and I'm sure you looked stuff up online, and you got the balloons, so you have to figure out, like, what do I do with the balloons? So how did you teach yourself what to do with the balloons to make them into animals and art and Santa Claus? And you made one of me a few months ago, too. That's really cool. But you have to, like, figure out, like, you look at the balloons and think to yourself, well, what do I do with these? So what was that stuff like?
So I just started watching YouTube tutorials, and like obviously you can't learn how to do everything from YouTube tutorials, but like once you figure out the basics and then start learning the advanced techniques, your growth just is exponential. You can pretty much make anything.
And I remember you were telling me that like you sometimes like sketch out the parts you want to do, and then like you do the sketch and you look at it and think about like what kind of balloons would make that shape or make that size or color and stuff. So it's a really involved thought out process. It looks like you just grab the balloons and twist it into a thing, but there's a lot of technique there.
Yes.
Yeah. So now let me ask you, Drew, I was going to ask you this before and it slipped my mind. So you're doing magic tricks. You're out there doing shows. So say you're doing a magic trick for someone or a small group or audience or whatever, and you can tell, as a magician, I think you rely a lot on like your ability to like distract and, to attract someone's attention away while you hide a thing or do the trick. What do you do if you're in a situation where you kind of know that like the person knows what you're doing?
So there's two things. If it's a kid, I'll come up to them after and be like, it'll be our little secret. They know. Yeah. But if it's an adult, I mess with them and I have fun. Because they're like, I know how you did that. I ask how. And so I'll do the same trick with an alternate method. And they're watching to be like, oh, I know how this guy does it.
Wow.
And it blows their mind.
You are good. And you do Rubik's Cubes in your mouth too, right?
Yes.
Because that kind of blew me away from before. I remember I had to bring that up too. So, wow, Drew. So what is it that you do? Describe your business when you go out there and do these shows. Like, how does it work?
Basically, if you want me, you just contact me and list what the event is. I've done everything.
And you do both magic and balloons, and sometimes both, mm-hmm. and all. You do like sometimes where you do like demonstrations, and sometimes you do like more one-on-one and stuff. So,
so it all depends on like what you want to, but basically I just show up. You tell me where you want me. I do a magic show, and then I have everybody line up and make everybody balloons.
How much of it's memorized? Because I mean, I was gonna say, like, someone walks up to you, they want a giraffe. You got to like remember how to,
Yes. So it's basically just repetition over and over again, and then eventually it sticks in your mind. Oh, this is how to make a giraffe.
Like cubing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like what?
Cubing. I'm also a cuber, so you
Oh,
mentioned Rubik's
what
Cube.
is
so-
that? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
so
Just-
you,
yeah.
Aubrey
Not-
Campbell.
not
doing
to
this
dur-
stuff.
not to
No, I
derail
want
it,
you
but-
both in here. So
Yeah.
Aubrey Campbell, you are a student at Hamilton
Yes.
College, and you're a major in music and theater both.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And I saw you this spring. You were in Angels in America.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. So
Yep.
like that is a big part in an iconic play.
Mhm.
Did you feel a lot of pressure when you went out for that part?
It's a hard role to play. I'll tell you that. It's a horrible character when you look at him objectively.
Yeah,
We're
right.
talking about Louis Ironson, by the way. I don't know if you
Yep.
mentioned that, but oh my lord, the stuff that man does in that show. Yeah, it took a lot of doing what I do on stage and then kind of mentally washing myself as I leave the theater every day.
Oh, that.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
He's kind of a dark
Yeah,
character.
yeah. He leaves his
Yeah.
lover who's dying of
He's
AIDS.
dying of AIDS, right?
Yeah,
right,
and
right.
it's the reasons for doing so are very selfish, are very, very just bad.
Yeah.
Like to put it-
how
yeah.
do you get into that mindset? Like when you're acting, you're playing that part, you're
Oh.
feeling it, you're communicating it, you're emoting it.
Yeah.
How is it that you like? How do you reach that part of yourself?
That's a really good question because it shows up whenever almost any actor has to play a role where they're doing something really horrible and they have to find some way to justify it in their minds, whether it be like the character objective, what they want, their obstacles, that kind of a thing. But of course there's always going to still be that element of, oh god, I hate this character. But yeah.
But do you like feel as you play the part that you really have to embrace the character and all the complexities and all the contradictions and all the
Yeah. My mentor and professor Mark Cryer teaches a method, the Udahagen method, and within his version of that method, he teaches us how to write like this very long process sheet.
Yeah.
Where we go over like all the complexities, all the nuances, all the stuff, and stuff like that's not even in the script. Like what do you think your character's favorite color is? You know, like that
What
kind of
is
thing.
the method? Because I hear people talk about that a lot, and I had some people on the show who have talked about like what it means to them.
So-
Is the method basically like you are sort of like inhabiting the mindset of the character really all the time,
So
not just on stage, but like
it
to stay
depends.
in the.
It depends on what method we're talking about, because I mean, I like of course there's like method actors who
We had to
try
get
to
Brando, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, you got your Heath Ledger, your whatnot,
Yeah,
right?
right,
But I can speak for myself in the approach that I take, which a lot of people take, where to put it really concisely, it's about the questions that you ask to get the answers, which then makes it flow languidly, if that makes any sense.
It
Yeah,
does, because
yeah.
once you understand them, the words on the page that come out
Right.
of your mouth probably feel more.
Yeah, and they're no longer
normal.
words on page. You know?
Yeah, they're you. Right?
Yeah. It's the very moment. It's the very direction the scene's going. Yeah.
When does that happen? Because when you try out for a part, or even when you first get the part, you know, I'm sure at first, like, you're rehearsing, you're doing table reads, and you're not getting the character yet. Like, when do you know that, like, all right, I sort of understand this guy. I'm sort of, like, into this, you know?
It's always, for me, like, somewhere between week 3 and 4 where I'm finally, like,
So
on
that
board.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a minute. It takes a lot of sitting down, a lot of highlighting, a lot of. I mean, first you got to memorize the lines, which is a hassle for a 3.5-hour play like Angels in America Part 1.
I was going to ask about
But
that. Yeah.
but yeah, first you got to memorize it, and then you got to sit with it and let it gestate as like a character speaking,
Right.
as well, really you speaking.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then, so like when you're auditioning for the
Mhm.
part. So when it's such a big role and it's such a big play, like, did you feel like how do you prepare for the audition?
For the audition,
Yeah.
people approach it differently, but the way that I've done
Do
it.
you watch other actors work? Like, did you
Oh, yeah.
watch the HBO version before the audition, or did you see it on stage?
Well, I mean, I've seen the London National Theatre production with Andrew Garfield as Pryor.
Yeah.
But I try not to embody other actors' works. You know, that's
Right.
that's low key plagiarism. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, we try not to do that, especially in collegiate institutions as well.
And it must be hard though
but-
at times.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. But to answer your question about preparing for auditions, it's really just showing the board like your cleanest acting that you can. So you choose like a monologue that you're really familiar with that maybe you've done in a different show, and you give it your all as if you were in that show, and then you get to rehearsals. They understand that you're looking at this script for the first time, and your acting's not going to be as clean as in the audition.
Right.
But
right.
it's always about getting to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what do you mean when you say clean? Like in terms of like having the lines
just
down or having the
Have it. Well, I mean, not
performance
just the lines down, but like having it as a full performance, like having it like if you've done it before.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
How long does it take to like? Is it about 3 or 4 weeks so you kind of get the real rhythm of the play, where you kind of feel like you know it? Is it about the time frame? I mean, with a play, or because it must be a while. Like you must have a moment where you think like, oh, this is never gonna come together. I would think in any kind of play. it must be.
I tend not to have that mindset
Really?
of it's never going to come together. It always does.
Yeah.
It just depends when.
You're right.
Some days it's the night before. Some days it's a week before. You never know.
And the
But
excitement must be
but
fun.
if mentally if it doesn't come together in your head, you're not ready.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I try not to do that.
Has it ever happened?
Oh, that's a good question. I gotta think back on that.
Well, you know what's funny? Because like whenever we do stuff like this with the show too, with teaching too, like there's times you start to talk, you explain something, and like you lose your place. So
right.
it's
Yeah.
like-
Yeah. You
so-
just lose your train of
yeah.
thought. Yeah.
What do you do if that happens?
Like if I was like if I lost my train of thought like in an
Yeah.
audition or in a monologue.
Well, if you're on stage, how about if you're doing a show?
You if you lose track, you hope for the best. Really.
How do your fellow actors
Yeah,
help you
it's very rare for that kind of a thing to happen.
Yeah.
Like and it's if something goes off track or if something pauses, it's usually like a very small thing that no one in the audience knows
Wouldn't
about
even
except for
know.
like the director or the stage
Right.
manager. Right. A good example for me is in Angels in America, the scene between Lewis and Belize where they're like having an argument at a cafe. There was like a string of lines where we completely messed up the order, right?
Oh.
And so we paused for like a good 3 seconds. I was like, I have a line, and I got right back in, and then
Yeah.
we go from there.
So like,
So,
did
yeah,
you both
it's-
know what was happening?
Yeah, it's about
Could you tell?
it's a lot of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
in
would
your
imagine.
scene partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Drew, you're out there by yourself. So if
Yeah.
if you lose track or lose your pace, what's your process for getting back on track or for like making the show continue to flow?
Yeah, once I realize I'm off track, I make a good joke. And then
That's a good way to
once,
handle it, yeah.
Once everybody's laughing, then I can recoup with myself and be like, all right, need to get through this trick. And then I'm like, set.
Yeah.
So it's very easy once I mess up, because also I can just say, oh, that's a part of the trick now.
That's true. And you can make a joke about
And
it.
nobody will ever know.
Right. How long like are your magic shows? Like when you do a magic show, like how long would that be?
Around 25 to 30 minutes.
And how do you pace yourself? Like you're up there on stage, how do you know like it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes? How do you know that like how do you keep track of like getting all the things you want to get in the performance?
I hope.
I mean that would be hard, I would think.
Yeah.
It's,
So it's mainly just I've timed out my tricks. I know about how long it should take.
yeah.
Once it's started and like once my music's going, just the general feel of like, oh, I'm this far into the music. I know I'm about halfway through this trick. I need to slow down if I want to make the show
Oh,
longer.
really? So you get a feel for it like that too?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine that's how it is on stage, no matter what you're doing. You get a sense of like this is flowing right and pacing is right, and you can kind of probably feel if the pacing's wrong.
Oh yeah. You could definitely feel if a pace is off if you've been practicing for a show for a few months.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's visible to the audience, even
Yeah.
if they're not familiar with the show, and you tend to not want that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you probably just like look at each other on stage as actors. If you know that you've like wandered a bit, and try to like help yourselves kind of get back to where you got.
Mhm.
Is that like have the kind of the technique they would teach you to do like
Like
I was wondering, like, what do they teach you? Like, if you go to acting school or acting
Uh-huh.
classes, what kind of things do they teach you about acting?
well, half of it is like theoretical, and half of it is practical.
Mm-hmm.
And the theoretical stuff that I'm talking about is practical in the sense of like like character method, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But there's a lot of like safety stuff that we learn. A lot of like fight choreography kind of stuff.
Really,
lot of,
like what? Like so that you can like do like sword fight.
I've done sword fighting for a production of Romeo and Juliet, which was very fun, by the way.
That's cool.
You learn how to pretend to hurt each other,
Yeah.
so you don't hurt each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that like fencing, like with the swords? I mean, they're not actual swords, of course, but you have to learn how to do all the. Like, you must choreograph like each swing of the blade,
yeah.
I would imagine, and
Yeah,
each connection of the blades.
When so I've only ever done it once, and it was actually like outside of the collegiate like setting, and it was for the theater at Woods Hill, which side plug, you should check out their stuff.
That's the one where they do Shakespeare.
Yeah. Shakespeare in the Summer in the Barn.
I'm
Awesome.
blanking on his name, but I
Alan Guy Wilcox.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Where was I? Oh, so when we were doing the fencing, we learned really, really basic stuff that when sped up looked really, really good. And it really came down to attack positions and defense positions. And defense positions are more like linear up and down, while attack positions are a bit more
like
a little more
sweeping or cutting or
So and the important thing, which if I'm gonna call myself out, I wasn't amazing at it in rehearsals about being slow perhaps and
is that how you do it first? Like, do you do it very slowly first?
Yeah,
and then if you get it down,
so you do it very slowly first, and so you learn the muscle memory of the choreography, so you can eventually, like, with the same kind of feeling of the slowness, except it doesn't look slow.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
It's again kind of like cubing. I keep bringing this up, and it's like, we do it slow, so the muscle memory picks up, and then all of a sudden we can do like a J from very fast. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, we're going to talk more about the cubing too, because I used to love movies.
Yeah, this is an unexpected.
I have never saw them in my life, though, but I'm so impressed that you guys.
We should have brought them.
Well, next time come on the show, something.
Oh yeah.
I didn't think about that until now. It's like, oh, he does that too. That's pretty amazing. Rubik's Cube, I've never solved them in my life. I've taken it apart when I hit it as a kid. I never solved it. So, you're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. I'm this is part 1 of 2024, the year in local arts, entertainment, and media. My guests today are Drew Allen from Drew's Magic and Balloon Animals, and Aubrey Campbell, who is a musical theater student at Hamilton University. We'll have more after the break. On Media Monday. Hi everybody, welcome back to the hot seat on this Christmas Eve. I was going to say Christmas Eve, but it's actually Christmas Eve, so double Christmas Eve. So this is 2 days before Christmas, and we're celebrating the year in entertainment and media and art and making stuff and doing stuff. And my guests today are Drew Allen, who is the founder of Drew's Magic and Balloon Animals. And he makes these great things with balloons. He made a Santa Claus. If you watch inside the video, you can see it. I'll have it on our website probably tonight. I'll probably try to get that up real quick. UticaPhoenix.net. But I also have Aubrey Campbell, and Aubrey is a student at Hamilton College, and he is studying musical and theater. You're a musical and theater major, right?
Music and theater.
Music and theater.
Yep.
Major. Yes,
not musical theater. So
not musical theater. Musical and theater.
Yes, I love musical theater, but I don't do it that often.
So, what is a musical theater major study? What are you going to learn? What are you going to do?
Well, I can talk for myself as a Hamilton music and theater student, because it's very different from, like, say, like a BFA program. Because what I'm doing right now is like essentially 2 separate BAs, where I'm studying like the field of music and the field of theater, and I have my own like focuses like in both. So in music, I'm focusing on opera, like opera singing, and in theater, I'm focusing on acting, and so eventually they'll come together. I mean, eventually it is coming together. But the idea is, after this, I plan to go to a grad school somewhere for an MFA in opera.
So what draws somebody your age to opera?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Yeah, I'm curious, because I doing the show has kind of made me more interested in more stuff, and some people have talked to me about doing opera have my opera performers on the show, which I would love to do. It's made me kind of want to go see one, to go see that kind of thing, because I've actually never seen that. And I wonder, like, what is it about opera that one can appreciate, that you appreciate, that really drew you to want to be to the art form?
Yeah. So this might be very long-winded, and I apologize in advance.
Go ahead.
But so I came to Hamilton wanting to be a musical theater tenor. And within the first semester of working with my wonderful voice teacher, Kay Paulson, we realized that I was not a tenor, and I was indeed a bass baritone.
So your voice was lower than like you thought? Is that would be
Yeah,
lower,
yeah. My voice
so
sits lower than
like
I wanted it / thought it would.
Okay.
And so in musical theater, there's a bit of an issue about not being a tenor and finding jobs. If I'm gonna be completely
really?
honest, yeah.
Really?
There's not a lot of repertoire written for lower voices in musical theater, unless it's somewhere in the golden age, or there are a few exceptions and examples. Company is an amazing example of it, or Hadestown, for example. There's a very low bass part, but just overall. Sorry,
who in Company would be the bass? Like, just do you remember?
I can't remember the character name. I know the song name. It's Being Alive,
but it would be like a low,
yeah.
You have to have a low voice to like.
Like a medium low voice. It's baritone, but.
So what do you do if like you are a bass and like you want to work in the field and get jobs? How do you make yourself more like marketable?
I go to a lot of competitions, and I put my voice out there for people to hear, and they pick me up.
What are the competitions like?
They're very fun. You meet a lot of people who are interested in the same thing as you, and along with the competition, which is separated into like divisions for overall year range or age range and voice type. Yeah. Alongside with that, there are a lot of master classes and a lot of like workshops that you can attend.
Yeah.
And so it's really, the competitions that I go to are more so conventions almost, with a competition like attached onto it.
So you can network as well.
Yeah. Networking is the most important thing about the career.
So Drew, like, how do you, like, you're on your own when you do your stuff? Like, you don't have a theater company or a play group or stuff, like a group that does plays. How do you like know, like, who do you bounce ideas off of? Your audience, or do you like practice with other people first, or how do you know when you put together an act? Like, what tricks, say for the magic act, like what tricks should go in the act? Maybe what tricks are like worn out, or what tricks maybe like this doesn't fit. How do you put your act together?
At first I just think about it, and like, because I look for transitions between tricks.
I would think that'd be the hardest part.
Yes, and that's what makes the show go together very easily. Yeah. And if I can find a transition, the trick will probably go in the show.
What kind of transitions do you use? Like when you're writing those transitions or composing them in your head, like how do you transition from one trick to another? What would you say to like smooth that?
Just a joke.
Yeah.
But transitions can be anything. Like there's some, going back to Rubik's Cubes, there's some tricks where like, I did once a show entirely out of Rubik's Cubes, and every transition was like, oh, let's use this cube.
Wow. So you have something like that as the framework for your act, and then then the individual tricks would go between all the Rubik's Cube kind of thing that holds it together. I'm kind of visualizing as a script. But
once you have the transitions, everything falls into place, and then I practice. And the final say before it goes out is my mom. If she doesn't like it, it isn't going down.
Well, it's good to have someone like that to like bounce those ideas off of. So when you're doing this, so like say, so like you come up with a show, you come up with an act that uses the Rubik's Cube as your transitions. You have it practiced, you have it memorized, it works. How often, like how long will you use that before you decide like, well, I gotta update because maybe I'm gonna go back to the town park next summer and I gotta have a new kind of act. Like, how do you know that it's time to either like refresh it or to like do another act?
It depends. Like if I'm doing a show, like I've been to the place before and it isn't getting as many laughs.
Oh yeah.
I have to change it up. But there's like some tricks that have been in my show since the beginning of like my thing. Like the trick I do at the end with an imaginary deck of cards, I've done that at every single event. I've done, and I've always closed with that.
So it always kills.
It always kills.
What is the trick like? Like what happens with the cards?
And
don't tell us how you did the trick, but you can tell us what it's like.
I throw you an imaginary deck of cards. You take one out, we joke around a little bit, you throw it back to me. I make the deck real, and the card you picked out is turned around the wrong way in the deck.
Oh my gosh. So like if you threw like imaginary cards to me, I'm gonna pretend I catch the cards, and I might say like it's a 7 of hearts,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll pretend to hand you this imaginary card and deck back, and then you're gonna get a real card, real deck of cards, give it to me, and it'll be that 7 of hearts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that would be a really good trick. So next time you come, you got to bring in the cards too, because I definitely got to see that one. So Aubrey,
Yeah.
what's your method? Like if you use an adaptation of the Uta Hagen acting method, what's your method to approach your characters? Then? How do you apply it?
I look at what the character wants most first, and then I look at what the character wants most in each act, and then I look at what the character wants most in each scene, and I try to connect them in a way that makes sense.
I see.
Yeah.
Would you write this like in the margins of your script?
I would write this like objective map in like a separate notebook.
Okay.
It's like it's very
Is it like a character arc?
Yeah, essentially. But if I should have brought my notebook, but essentially it looks like a conspiracy theorist's chalkboard. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
But,
yeah.
There's like lines written everywhere, whatnot. This connects to that. This connects to that. But overall, it's your objective, what you want, your obstacle, it's in your way, and your tactic.
Yeah.
And how are you gonna do? How are you gonna get over that obstacle to get to your
So
objective, to what
it's
you want?
the objective, the obstacle, and the tactic.
Overall, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that goes into it, like environmental
right.
stuff, like
Yeah.
your 5 senses and that kind of a thing. Like is it cold out? What time of day is it? Did you just wake up? That kind of a thing.
So,
But,
do you
yeah.
apply all those questions to like each scene? If
Yeah.
It's like, what is it?
Every single scene.
Like in this, what is the day like?
Yeah.
The character stuff.
Yeah.
That's like a tremendous amount of work. I think people don't realize how much work actors do, or how much performers do. Like how much you must have to practice a lot, Drew. Do you still practice?
Yes.
I would imagine. Like how much and how often?
It depends, because like sometimes you pick stuff up really quick, and then sometimes you're working on something for a year before it's ready.
What are you
So-
working on now? What's your challenge? Like what is what is the thing you want to do next? Like what's something you're thinking about? Like I gotta try making one of those.
I have a few tricks that I'm like, oh, I want to try making it. Some I'm still working on how to do it.
Is this more the magic or the balloons?
Kind of both, because
Yeah.
like with balloons, you just once you figure out what you want to do, you just figure out how you have to do it.
Yeah.
That's very similar with magic, because like I always think of how do I want this trick to end,
Yeah.
and then I work backwards from there.
That's interesting. 'Cause that's actually what you do as a teacher. It's called backward planning. I don't know if your teachers ever told you that, but like what we do is we think about like I want a student to write an essay like this. So we think about the parts that you get to go there, and you do it backwards. Like the first week we'll do this, second week. So it's interesting that you kind of have that process too, to figure out like how could I get to where I want to be. So it sounds like that. Do you always like weave the balloons and the magic in your acts? Do you always weave both into all the stuff that you're doing, or do you ever or is it each like a separate part of your show?
It's sometimes it's both, because like sometimes I'll do tricks with balloons,
Oh,
and sometimes it's always different no matter what it is.
is some of it based on like the day or like the audience you have? Like maybe these people seem to like this more, so maybe do one more
Oh, yeah.
balloon thing and one less magic, or
100%. Like my magic shows, I have what I like to call a loose script, where I'm like, I'll say this stuff so the trick makes sense, but anything in between, I wing it and have fun, make jokes.
Good. But it must have taken you a while to get to the point where you had the confidence to do that and the ability. How long did it take you? You started when you were 13, right?
Yes.
How long did it take you to like you really felt like, yeah, I got this done? Because no matter what you do, at first it's always hard. No matter how much talent you have, you got to learn it, and being on stage, and you got to figure out like, you got to be able to read the room and stuff. And how long do you think that took you to like you really got a feel for that?
At least a year. But like
was gonna say,
once you're
probably.
starting to get your laughs, it's addictive being on stage getting laughs.
It must be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So do you ever do comedy, Aubrey?
Not in a very long time. I've done a lot of really depressing shows. I'm not gonna lie.
I know
yeah.
Angels America is like the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, I mean, there are some comedic moments in Angels, but that's not the point of the show. And I mean, it's funny you bring this up. Angels, for some shows, we have like people laughing throughout the first two scenes, and then eventually when we get to the scene where it's like Act 1, Scene 3 or 4, where Pryor finally reveals his sarcomas to me, and I realize he has AIDS. It's like, it's that kind of show. So like.
You probably had some audience members who weren't familiar with the show. College.
The Hamilton College is not especially the place for a lot of people to be familiar with Angels in America.
Well, because it's also like a little bit from the past. I mean, it's like I grew up with that. It's like a big part of when I'm 55. So it's like I would imagine probably is it well known among people your age, the play?
I didn't know about it till I got to college. So I mean, I in the theater world, it is very well known. Yeah. But you have to learn about it first, and that's usually once you're a few years into it,
So you never told me, what is someone your age? What draws someone your age to opera?
Right.
You tell me? I can't remember. That's such a good question.
What draws me to opera? So I grew up a huge fan of musical theater.
Your mom is a music teacher.
Of course.
I worked with at JFK.
Yeah, of course. And grew up in music, whatnot, and to continue on. So again, I realized I was a bass baritone, and I'd have better luck post graduation finding work in opera. And so I was like, okay, how do I fall in love with opera? So the part of it was that I wasn't particularly interested at the time. I mean, I had done some like art song kind of stuff in high school as like a little tenor, whatnot, but I never like really looked into opera. And what's another amazing thing about Hamilton is because one of the main donors of the Met Opera is also one of the main donors of Hamilton College. Wow. We have Met Opera on demand for free for every single student. So I hopped on that really quickly. Yeah. And what I found. We're not only like the your Mozarts, your Donizettis, your Wagner, your whatnot, but I found a deep love for contemporary works. A few shows.
What are contemporary opera? Because I didn't know that
it's honestly, if I'm gonna answer this really concisely, it's music theater but sung like opera. That's it. That's really it. You can as an English speaker, just saying, but like. You can understand what's going on very clearly, and
so like the contemporary operas.
Because I mean, of course, with like the great operas of the past, there's of course an undeniable language barrier, and that I think that's part of the reason a lot of people aren't really getting into it. Right. But I mean, there's subtitles. You can do it, but
you don't hear it on the radio.
Yeah, you don't hear it on the radio.
You don't go to it on Spotify.
And then I watched contemporary operas, and I was like, I really resonate with that. Yeah. I want to do that with my life at some point. And so I was like, okay, I will sing my Mozarts. I will sing my Donizettis. I will sing my Wagners. So eventually I could sing contemporary works. But in the process of doing the Mozart, Donizettis, and Wagners, I fell in love with those composers as well. So here I am.
Who are some composers that are modern?
Modern? Here we go. So my favorite is Philip Glass. And he is a contemporary composer of the minimalist style, which uses really simple melodic and rhythmic structures over a long period of time, and they layer it and take away from it and then build up. And eventually it's 11 minutes later and you have no idea what you just listened to because you're just sitting in contemplation, wondering if you'll ever hear anything more amazing. Wow. But a few of his operas that I love dearly are, of course, is Akhenaten, which is about the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten and his rise and fall in power. Satyagraha, which is about the early works of Gandhi in India. And he even has an opera called The Greatest American, which is about the last days of Walt Disney. So there's a lot of really interesting
work. There
work.
was this like kind of there's so much contemporary.
Yeah, and that's only one composer where I mentioned. I can keep going for like hours, but yeah, there's a whole lot of contemporary works that I think people should really look into if they're looking to somehow get into opera.
Yeah. Well, we'll check now. So, Drew, what do you listen to? What were the songs of 2024 for you?
Oh, it's a hard switch between opera. I got my dad's taste in music, so a lot of 80s rock.
Great. Well, I like that too. Such as what? Right.
So many
Journey. And,
Journey, AC/DC, Metallica, all the greats.
Oh, all the greats, absolutely, yeah. So when we come back, we'll talk more about media. Like, I ask you, like, what are you watching this year? What movies did you go to? Did you play video games? Did you go to operas? Did you go to magic shows? Did you go to operas? Did you go to magic shows? So we'll talk more about that. You're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. My guests today are Drew Allen from Drew's Magic and Balloon Animals, and Aubrey Campbell. He is a music and theater major at Hamilton College. You're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. I'll be back with more after the break. Bank of Utica. This is Ron Klopfenstein, and you're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. Hi everybody, welcome back to the hot seat. It's Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve. The eve before Christmas. Very cold day here in the studio. But I have two great guests. I have Drew Allen. He is the founder of Drew's Magic and Balloons. He makes those great balloon animals, does magic tricks, has his own stage show. And Aubrey Campbell, he is a student at Hamilton College, music and theater major. And we're talking about, this time we're going to talk about, like, what was 2024 all about in media? Like, what were the songs? What were the shows? What were the movies? What were the video games? What were you guys doing? What did you guys do in 2024? So I want to hear from both of you guys. So what did you watch? What did you listen to? What did you read? What interests you?
Okay, I'll go first. So I'll continue on what I was going about for the Met Opera on Demand, because that's been my main source of media consumption this year. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've watched a ton of operas, both contemporary and old. I fell in love with this opera based off the book The Hours, which then turned into the movie The Hours. You know The Hours?
Yeah. It's Virginia Woolf, right?
Virginia Woolf.
It's about her.
And then there's two other characters in two different decades. They're all connected through some way, and it's a wonderful opera. The three main singers, the trio, is Renee Fleming, Kelly O'Hara, and Joyce DiDonato. So all powerhouses, and it's really one of those operas where, like, it hurts but in the best way possible, like it really it takes that knife, jams it into you, and twists. It does not stop with the it's a wonderful story. Yeah.
So did you watch that this year? Like, that's what you're doing. You're watching a lot of opera.
I'm watching a lot of opera. Yeah.
What parts do you want to play? Like if you could do an opera, like any part, what would you pick? Or like some parts that might interest you.
There's a ton. At some point I want to do something Philip Glass related. I want to sing either, I forget his name, but the bass role in Akhenaten. Because it's a very fun role to sing along to.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know when that would ever happen. Like in The Hours, the role of Richard,
the poet.
Yeah, the poet is a bass baritone role, and it's beautifully written. And
we gotta get them to do it there, you know.
Yeah.
I'll come see it.
Yeah.
So Drew, how about you? What did you do this year? What did you watch? What did you listen to? What games did you play? What books did you read?
Oh, a wide range of stuff.
Well, tell me about some of them. What were some of the best?
At the beginning of the year, I watched a few musicals because I'm in musical theater in my high school.
Oh, hey, cool.
Me and a group of my friends go out and watch all the other schools. There was a bunch of.
Oh, really? So what plays did you see? What schools did you go to watch plays?
We went a bunch. Jordan Elbridge, VVS.
Really?
All over.
So what did you gain by doing that? Like, was it valuable to see, like, how other actors your age do these parts, or how other school theater groups do stuff? Did you get ideas?
Yes, and then we got ideas to bully my director into doing for future shows.
What plays you guys gonna do?
We're trying to get him to do Drowsy Chaperone. That's my favorite.
Oh, that would be
a great show.
Yeah.
Musical.
Yeah.
That's mainly the one we're trying to get him to do. But
now, what plays have you done?
Last year I did Into the Woods.
Oh, really? I love that. So what did you play?
I was Cinderella's father.
Oh, neat, yeah.
That was a fun part.
Now, how do you, does that, it must feel like different to you to be like part of a theater group, to be playing a character like with a whole cast instead of on your own.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's the difference like? What's it like to go back and forth from like doing it with a company to doing it individually?
Well, when I'm doing a magic show, it's all about me. Is and that comes with a range of things, and it's good, but it's also bad because like if you
Yeah.
mess up, it's all on you.
Sure.
But like,
But you're gonna make it jokes.
yeah, I'll make it.
You always have to.
Yeah. You always thinking.
But like with a group, it's a bigger experience. I feel like
Yeah,
it's more
I
fun.
bet.
'Cause,
Right.
like you have fellow castmates that you really become close friends with and everything.
So in seeing these plays, other than Drowsy Chaperone, what plays and what roles did you see out there that you think, somebody I'd like to try that?
I want to be like literally anybody in Greece.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I know.
Also, one of my dream shows, Newsies.
Oh yeah, right.
I want to be Crutchy.
Nice. Yeah. How about you? Like if it's not opera, say if you could play a part in any play, what's a role that you would like to take on and try?
I haven't thought about doing plays
Do you
in a
think
very
about
long time.
comedy?
Not
though?
gonna
I
lie.
mean, like after Angels in America, I mean, do you ever feel like I got to do something more fun or like a more of a fun like Shrek the musical to follow up on Angels in America?
I'm gonna be completely honest. For whatever reason, I really, really enjoy doing sad stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
So-
I haven't felt the dying need to do comedy.
Well, then you must be really good at the method because you
I
must
see.
have a way to like delve into the character,
Yeah.
be consistent with
Yeah.
maintaining your feeling about
Yeah,
it.
and maintaining
But
your
also-
mental health along the way.
Exactly,
Yeah.
leaving it behind because like you
Yeah.
go to other classes and you got other life and stuff.
Mhm.
What is your method then? Like how do you immerse yourself so thoroughly in characters and in stories with so much depth and pathos, and then leave it behind when it plays them?
You get really comfortable with your cast and your director outside of your characters, so you know both sides of them. They're like I mentioned, like the fake washing off before you leave the theater. That's something
Right.
that like actors actually do, like as like a little
Like a symbolic gesture.
like a symbolic
to,
gesture
leaving
to
it
like
behind.
like okay, we're
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
like
it makes
like
sense.
we're leaving it on the stage.
Yeah.
Let's go
Yeah.
get dinner or something,
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
a lot of the, I mean, at Hamilton, there's a great tradition where after a lot of rehearsals, we do something called team din, where we just go to a dining hall and get like a bunch of tables together and just eat dinner and talk
Oh,
about
that's-
rehearsal and talk about
that's
life
really
and whatnot.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it gives you a way to kind of process it. Deal with it.
yeah, definitely. We
Yeah.
don't want to like. We don't want to go on stage, do heinous stuff the whole time,
Right.
leave and never talk to each other again.
That would make sense.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You probably feel like you have to have some amount of like closure, I would imagine. Like you're doing I mean it must be I've never done a play. So I do wonder, like, and you can tell me too, Drew, like what is it must be hard, like if you really most people that I've interviewed and that I know have done plays, it's such an intense and great experience that it's very hard when it's done. So it must feel like a little bit of like, it's,
Yeah, there's always a bit of
I don't
post-show
know.
depression, but it usually
Yeah.
wears off within about a month or two.
yeah, we get
Yeah.
working on you next.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
always the next. It's always a constant grind. Yeah.
So tell me about the Rubik's Cube.
Oh.
So my husband Jim Hale, his grandfather was named Joseph Rubik with a K. He was also Hungarian, and just like Erno Rubik, who
Mhm.
created the Rubik's Cube.
Yep.
So we don't know if there's a connection.
Who
We
knows?
don't have any money, but it's like, but Rubik. So tell me about the Rubik. That's another thing too. Like people my age, like we grew up with, we didn't have phones, so we had to make do. With
Oh yeah.
games. But well, for you guys, like how does someone your age get into Rubik's Cube?
For me, it was my friends. My friend would always just bring his Rubik's Cube, and I always got so interested. And then one day he bought me one, and it spiraled from there.
But like, how did you go from like doing it? Like, how did you solve it the first time? Did you just solve it, or did you look it up? Like,
A
what to do?
lot of YouTube tutorials.
So, I mean, like YouTube, it's funny because I can't imagine because I did the Rubik's Cube. Rubik's Cube tortured me, my generation. Like, we could never get that thing. I can't imagine like looking at a video to figure out like how to. Aubrey? What's your method of the Rubik's Cube?
Well, it would
Compare
take
your methods here.
It
What
would
are your
take me
methods?
20 years to
Teach-
explain
teach-
it to
teach
people
me.
who aren't familiar.
Well, I've been
Um,
doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, so it's I use a method known as CFOP, cross F2L OLLPLO. I know it. That
Oh my
kind
God,
of
there's
like,
a name for it. I
yeah,
had
there's
no
a whole
idea.
bunch of terminology that you guys are not picking up on
What?
right now, and that's
Really?
okay. But it's really to put it really concisely. You start with like say like a jumbled Rubik's cube. and you make a cross of pieces. So then you can build around that cross, and eventually,
Like-
what you need to solve gets simpler and simpler and simpler until
Yeah.
it's solved.
And it's all about
Yeah.
just knowing the cases and finding where
Yeah.
they are.
What do you mean cases?
So there's a finite. So once you get
So you
past
make
the
a cross. So like your
Yeah.
Rubik's cube is like if you look at a side of your Rubik's cube, it'd be like you would have blue second like a cross, not
Yeah.
an X, but like a cross.
you would have a
Yeah.
cross going through the centers.
And then
so,
you would
yeah.
have like blue on one side, red on the other side. Like you'd have all the crosses first, or like one side.
No.
cross?
You do a cross on one side.
Yeah.
So it makes sense if we clarify how the cube is structured. So the centers never move relative to each other. So white will always be opposite
I
of yellow.
did take my Rubik's cube apart, so I do know that.
Yeah.
Because I did cheat.
and
'Cause
there
I
are-
actually know the screwdriver method.
Yeah.
Where you take a screwdriver, you pop out a middle piece, then you put it together, and put that back in. Say, hey, look, I solved it.
Yeah.
But we didn't have YouTube, so we had to teach ourselves.
But there are edge pieces with 2 stickers on it.
Oh yeah.
And so those 2 stickers connect to 2 different centers, right? And so the
Oh.
cross is one side with the stickers on the side of the cross connecting to all the centers going around.
Okay.
And then from there you have little pillars that you can put pieces into in intricate ways that are usually intuitive.
Yeah.
But eventually you pick it up in a way where it's not where it's essentially just you see the case and you do it. You know,
Really?
it's almost
Yeah.
algorithmic in a way, except you don't learn it algorithmically. And then once you finish that one, you have like 2 layers done with like
Yeah.
the last layer remaining, and you look at the stickers on the top layer, which are the say for example you're doing white cross, it would be the yellow stickers, right? Because
Okay.
yellow is opposite white.
Oh,
And
right.
so you look at the shape, and based on that shape, there are 57 cases that it could be in, and you do an algorithm, and all of yellow, say for example, is on top.
Okay.
And so all you need to solve from there are the remaining stickers that are around the cube, which is one of 21 cases, and cubers who practice it pick it up within milliseconds.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you just narrow it down.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting about art. You know, that's one of the things you were telling me, Drew, last time you were on the show too. And we talked about this in the first segment too a little bit. Is how, you know, I always wondered like how do people make representational art? Because I could never do that. Like I really couldn't even draw what you did. But what I found is like people take little parts of it. Like you sketch it all apart, like maybe the face and like what are the geometric shapes and stuff. And is it kind of like, do you think being able to do that, like, do you think that like that ability kind of translates into the Rubik's Cube thing? Like that you can see things and figure out like move this here, that there, put that there.
Oh, 100%.
It must be like a different way of thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like as I said last time, I can look at something and be like, I can make that out of balloons. I just look at the Rubik's Cube and I'm like, that's that case, and then I solve it.
Wow. That's incredible. And it's really a gift because you can apply that to so many things. I mean, just being able to look at something and knowing what to do to make it come out right is itself like a, what is that like for you, Aubrey? Is it kind of the same thing? Like, what actually made you want to even do a Rubik's Cube?
That goes back to like when I was 14. It was my friend in Boy Scouts, and he showed it to me, and then
It's so cool that people still do those. You know?
Yeah. So he showed me in Boy Scouts, and then I did some researching on cubing and whatnot, and I found out that there were competitions and whatnot.
Oh, there
And-
are competitions?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Still?
Where
Wow.
where you go and compete for like the fastest time. Even the competitions are hard to explain to people who don't know what the competitions are.
I would
But
imagine.
essentially, you compete on an average. You do like 5 solves, and
Okay.
you take the middle 3, and then that's compared to other cubers. And whoever has the best average is like first place, second place, third place, that kind
well,
of thing.
how do they
But-
do it so that each person starts with the same degree of difficulty? Like how
Computers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
computer
like,
generated scrambles. And
so
yeah.
like a computer would generate the scrambles and then.
Yep, and then scramblers would follow that scramble, which is in notation. So
Wow.
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, so that's like pretty involved, you know.
Yeah.
Drew, you ever gonna give that a shot
One day.
one day?
Yeah, I've competed a few times, but
You
but
have. Where?
I competed not in a very long time, but my first competition was actually the Northeast Regional Championship
Really?
in Boston.
That's so
And
cool.
yeah, so that was very fun.
Yeah.
And then I competed again at New York State Championship.
How did you do?
Pretty okay. I mean, I got a few rounds in, but
Yeah.
I wasn't like sub 10 at the time.
Yeah.
I was like around 13, 12
Oh my
seconds,
God.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very fun. And then I did a small competition in Troy, New York, and then I did a small competition somewhere in New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire. Yeah.
How do you find out about this kind of thing? Like, how do you know about the Rubik's Cube community out there?
a bunch of YouTubers. And
Yeah.
then,
Oh, you too, yeah.
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 There's also a website run by the World Cubing Association.
Oh,
Yes.
Like with
The
all the
WCA.
competitions and everything.
Wow, wow. You know, I love that. It's still like such a valuable thing, you know?
Mhm.
How about Pac-Man? You guys play Pac-Man? It was also from the 80s, you know? We had good video games.
I don't play
Our video games
Pac-Man.
were simple, but they were easy to
Yeah.
grasp, you know?
Yeah.
Space
Yeah.
Invaders, Centipede,
Yeah.
that's my style.
On that kind of note, I for fun speed run the video game Portal, which
How do you do
which
that?
Is, you memorize how to do it, which if you guys don't know Portal, it's a game where you're like stuck in a post-apocalyptic research facility, and you
Mhm.
have a gun that creates portals, and you solve puzzles using those portals to fling yourself like everywhere.
Oh, I see.
Like
Yeah.
like do like crazy jumps and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like once it's a very short game.
Oh.
Once you can beat it in like an hour and a half, and then you can like learn how to do it really consistently, really fluidly, and you can get down to like 30 minutes. Some people get down to like 14. It's crazy.
Oh, so see how fast you can do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you
so,
ever
yeah.
play, Drew? Or do you play video games?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
I like Minecraft.
As you
Yeah,
It's
should.
mainly
yeah,
what I
yeah.
play.
As you should.
I really like Plants vs Zombies on the iPad. Not the PS4 one, but on the iPad, it's more like it's kind of like what Minecraft is like too. It's kind of like it's a challenge, but it's not super hard. It's kind of like relaxing. You know, it's like I kind of zone out. I mean, there's progressive like you go and go and go, then eventually you lose. But like, I like video games that are like I don't know how to say it, like a challenge, but not hard. You know,
Yeah.
do you ever find that too? Like you just need to like zone out.
Yeah.
So, how about you, Aubrey? What do you do when you got to zone out? Like after a big performance or after, you know?
Sometimes I
See,
just
for me, that's where TV comes in.
Yeah.
Like old classic sitcoms and stuff, you know?
I mean, after shows, I have to sit in silence for about 15 minutes or so, just to like breathe or stretch or like do push-ups or something to get my mind off of what I did.
It's so
Yeah.
super intense. Like, I don't know if you feel like this, Drew, but like when I finish one of these shows, like I am like really wound up. Like it does take me like a few hours. Like, you know, a lot.
Yeah.
And not like
Yeah.
where I'm like, you know, crazy scream, but like I'm just like really keyed up. Like,
Yeah.
I really don't want to do like I really don't want to talk or do other
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, stuff.
Right.
And then for me, I have to wind down a lot because doing a magic show
You're on your own.
and then straight interacting with people for 3 hours.
Yeah.
People are great, but it's very
Yeah.
tiring.
It is very tiring. It takes a lot of energy to keep yourself like when you're interfacing with the public to keep yourself like you know on you know
Yeah.
and at your best self and you know that's hard. You know, it takes a lot of energy. You probably see that too. You know.
I on the note of like being up there by yourself, I do a lot of like recital work, a lot of
Right.
like solo work, and you know, again, it is on you to like be there to be in charge of your technique, be in charge of what you're trying to communicate, which is the most important thing. You gotta. It's about communication. If you're singing notes on a page, you're singing notes on a page, and it's very obvious when you are singing notes on a page.
You probably got to feel it.
Yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
just like an actor. Yeah, that's where my acting work comes in for opera. Is
Yeah.
like I approach my opera roles the same exact way I would approach like my acting roles.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So 2025. I'm going to ask you guys. What are your plans for 2025? Like, what are you doing in media or arts or you know? What are some of your goals? Maybe even beyond that, like professional goals. Like you got you know business, but you also do plays and Aubrey got other things going on. You can opera and stuff. Like, what are some of the things you're looking forward to in this coming year? And maybe like you know down the road. Like what's like your long term plans?
I'm looking forward to my trip.
Where's your trip?
Because Spain and Italy.
Oh,
awesome.
Because all of this summer I've worked towards paying that off.
Oh
and
my
it's
gosh! When are you
so-
going there?
In April. So
Wow!
I'm looking forward to that.
Spain and Italy, good for you.
Thank you.
What
And
are
then
you doing in Italy?
I know.
just exploring, sightseeing.
Awesome.
It's
Oh
a
my
school
gosh.
trip. So
So
That
cool.
is so cool.
Yeah.
Good for
And-
you. You raising money all summer with your shows?
Yep.
Wow,
Shows and
I'm
magic.
impressed with you. I've said that before. I'll say it again. That is great. Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
also want a car because I can drive now. So
That's right.
gotta
Yeah, you
save
like
up
that. Saw your
next
mouse on
year
your
for that and
Facebook.
everything.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Well, you know, you got a job. You're lucky. You have business. You can do that. That's impressive. What's up for you?
Well,
What year are you in?
I'm a junior at
Okay.
Hamilton, so I got another year before I'm looking at like grad schools and whatnot. But
Are you thinking about it yet?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, you
I'm
probably have to,
I'm
yeah.
thinking about a few schools.
Yeah.
But yeah,
How would you go to grad school? Like, if for that sort of thing, do you have to send in an audition too?
Yeah. It's
like I do
like
an
for,
essay, but like
MFA
English,
kind of stuff. Like you send in like a pre-screen, and then it's different from college to college, different from university to university. But overall, you send like a pre-screen, and then you go for an audition, and you also see like the teacher. Sometimes you can get like a demo lesson, you know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, so you can see like if you like working with the teacher, if it's if they would work for you in the long run, that kind of thing, which is very important.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there many grad schools for what you want to do for opera or for musical?
Yeah, there's a good amount. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what ones are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at like the top ones like Juilliard, Yale, Eastman. Also looking at Peabody, Rice. Those are my top 5 right now. But yeah.
When would you have to apply, like for grad school? Like, is that in your senior year?
That would it'd probably be like in this like senior year, early senior year. Yeah. Depends on the college again.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's coming up, so
yeah.
Wish you guys both luck in the new year. Thank you for being here. This has been my 2024 year in arts, entertainment, and media with Drew Allen from Drew's Magic and Balloons, and Aubrey Campbell, who's a student at Hamilton College, Music and Theater. I'll have this whole show up on our website, uticaphoenix.net/Media Monday. Later, I'll probably try to get that up tonight. So I'll try to get it up tonight of show notes. And thanks for watching. Have a great Christmas. I'll be back here next Monday with 2024, the year in arts, entertainment, and media, part 2. So I'm going to turn things over right now to Jay Easy for the easy ride home.
Thank you.
Thank you.